And did you all get the meeting minutes from last week?
Good.
I did. I noticed one small spelling error there in on page 3 under Henry Woods Building heating system. You're calling it a hearing system. I don't know. Hearing system might be good too, but it's basically a heating system we talked about.
Sandy, have you got that?
Yeah, yes. Yes, I do.
Good.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. We accept the meeting minutes of Thursday, April 23rd. Then.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Heather, you want to give us update on the COVID? Your mic's mute.
Yeah, I just figured that out, Claire.
Yeah.
Took me a moment. Well, you know, it's the first time I've done that in a day, so we're doing well. I probably Zoom at this point like 5 times a day. So making progress. All right, COVID-19 update. So as far as the financial pieces go, there's, as we mentioned last week, there's still the 3 different pools of funding. There's the DPH, Department of Public Health. There is the CARES Act coming from the federal government, and there is the MEMA funding. We don't have any additional updates on any of those pieces right now. Hopefully there'll be more to come. The one piece we do know is our fire chief was able to get an update from MEMA that they're not going to be doing partial reimbursements. They're not going to do reimbursements until COVID-19 is completed. So we can only submit once. Our current expenses relative to the MEMA tracking portion for COVID-19 at this point between payroll and expenses was approximately $15,000. So I don't know if we're going to be looking at that incrementally every month or if it was just heavier at the beginning and we'll get less as we go. But the concern we have is that, you know, if MEMA is not reimbursing us until the whole thing is over,
Right.
we're footing that bill and we're not going to be reimbursed until it's complete. And as you know, MEMA is not really known well for their prompt payments of reimbursements. We did just get the payment from the generator project, which I believe was last fall, so that's not too bad. But on average, you know, you're usually looking at 12 to 18 months for reimbursement for MEMA. And with everyone looking at the same funding, I don't know how long it's going to take us to get it. So we just want to be cognizant that at some point, I think we're going to be carrying over a COVID-19 deficit for a period of time due to the delayed reimbursements from MEMA. So that's where we are as far as that goes. Other expenses, I mean, I don't think we know much of what's coming with it until it happens. As everyone knows, the governor has extended out all of his orders to May 18th. At this point, we're starting to have internal conversations about what we need to put in place when they do start a phased reopening for all the departments. And mostly it's looking at making sure we have enough PPE, we have precautions in place. So we're working very closely with the fire department and the Board of Health to make sure that any items that we need to make sure that we would safely move forward, we'd be able to procure ahead of time. So we are starting those conversations and looking at those pieces. Other expenses that are going to be coming up, the elections, we're going to have additional costs for those due to some additional precautions, as well as the Board of Selectmen had asked that the town clerk send out a mailing to every household to let them know that the election date has changed now till June 23rd. And also providing them with information on how to get their ballot by mail, either by absentee vote or early voting by mail. So that will go out, but we're going to be paying for the cost of the additional paper and also, not to mention, postage to every household in the town of Barre. So it's going to be a little pricey. The good news is that we should be able to put that as a reimbursement expense for MEMA. The bad news is we don't know when we're going to get that reimbursement at 75%. So that's where we are for the most part with that. We did update the number of cases the town has had. We posted that around 5:30 today and sent it out to all employees. So we're currently up to 39 cases, 37 or 39. I believe it's 37. I'll say 37 because I don't remember. 37 cases, 24 fully recovered, and 1 death. So our numbers are starting to change, but they are still high, and they still are staying high. So we will see how this goes. I think that that's also going to be some correlation with the expenses that we incur based on how long this kind of hangs around in the town for. So we'll see where we are with that. But the only other update I have is that the state still has had no updates on their revenue projections. They are doing a conference call with the Small Town Administrators Association next week. I believe myself, Sharon, Jean, Claire, I believe you're also signed up. So we're all signed up to tune in to see what he can provide. The hope is that he can give some guidance to the municipalities as to what they're doing on the state level and what they're looking at for funding and when it comes down. One of the little hiccups, I think it's a hiccup. I only say it's a hiccup because we don't know if there's any weight to it. But there was news coverage the other day that the President of the United States had alluded to suggesting with the word may withhold funding to states that have sanctuary cities in them. So I don't know if that's something he's actually going to do, but I think it's just important to put it on the list of stuff to everyone to keep that in mind, that if something like that does happen, that means you're going to have less funding coming down to the state. So I don't know if that's a real concern yet, or if that's just something that's kind of up in the air out there or millions of miles away and will never happen. But you should just be aware. So I think that's all I have, Claire, for the COVID-19 stuff. I'm sure there'll be more stuff as we go along.
And Jean, do you have any revenue updates at all? There isn't, is there?
No, there's no revenue. Nothing's changed. Oh, except that the state money came in today, so for the month of April. So
okay. The next thing is the FY20 expenses. And we'll be having extra expenses for the election, as Heather said. And we need to talk to our recommendations about our recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. They're having a meeting Monday night. We had voted yes on the hiring freeze. Was that right?
Yeah.
Everybody's agreed to that. Just the only ones is the town administrator and the building inspector. Any others?
Yep.
Now, on the expense freeze, we were going to come back to that tonight because we'll need to take a vote on that, what we recommend to them. I'm recommending myself that there should be a freeze on any non-essential items. Heather and I talked today, and anything that's been ordered will be paid for. But it's anything as of a date set for to go forward.
The only, go ahead.
That's based on, so Jean can talk a little bit about this. So this came up in our finance team meeting where we check in. And Jean was talking about her experience when she's had expense freezes in the past. Jean, can you just elaborate so that I don't?
Yeah. Yep. Usually what happens is you guys will vote on a certain date that the freeze will begin. So anything that's already ordered, like, I know the library had books ordered, but they hadn't received them yet. Those would be okay because they're before the spending freeze. So with the selectmen's meeting, they would have to state when that date is, probably usually the day of the selectmen's meeting. So anything before that is fine. We'll get paid and everything after that date, we'll be watching the dates in my office, and they shouldn't be spending. So.
Yeah, the problem is, of course, at the end of the year, a lot of times certain departments wait to see what they have for excess, and then they make some orders at the end of the year for essential things, maybe salt or whatever it is. So I don't know if that will enter into the decision or not.
But we don't have any money as we're looking at it right now.
If you're going to set a spending freeze, they won't be able to do that at the end of the year.
Right. Okay.
They'll have to wait until the following.
They'll have to wait for the new fiscal year. I mean, anything after the date that you set, that's it.
Right.
So what's the rest of you feel about that?
The description is, so when you say after some date, do we define what can be spent and what can't, or nothing can be spent?
Well, it would just be the essential things to run the office. It wouldn't be anything like we were talking about, like Heather was saying, like a new chair in your office. You had the money to buy it now, but you can't because it's spending freeze. So you'd have to wait till July 1. But if the chair fell apart and broke and you couldn't sit on it anymore, then that would be essential, and you'd have to buy a new chair.
That's a good example, Jean.
There you go. Thanks, Heather.
So the word is essential.
Right.
Okay,
The word is
the
essential.
word is essential then. Yeah. Okay.
Who determines essential?
Fine. No, that makes sense.
Who determines essential?
Who determines essential?
It's common sense. I mean, if I run out of paper in my office and I have to print warrants for the rest of the year, I got to buy a case of paper. I mean, there's just no doubt about it, unless I steal it from somebody else. So it's going to be, things that are totally necessary to run your office.
Now, Brian, we had a freeze on spending a few years back.
Yes, I remember that.
A couple of, and I think the Board of Selectmen, they have to approve that warrant.
I thought it was at that time, yes.
And they would turn it away.
Which makes it very complicated too. If you need a new chair, I suppose it's, or a case of paper, you have to go to the selectmen's meeting.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's, I mean, I'm for a spending freeze, but, you really have to take into consideration people making the decision at the department level. They're the ones that really have to be responsible. So a suggestion to have a freeze, I don't know.
If they freeze it, then the department head would have to, if there was something that he felt he really needed,
right,
before he ordered it, all he'd have to do is talk to the selectman, talk to Heather,
right.
Or Jean, to see if it's really essential.
Right. Even if it's within his budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So that would be my, with a freeze, having that specified.
What do you think, Mark or Jen?
I thought we had talked about that last week a little bit, and yeah, we have done it before, Claire, and
yeah,
there's I'm for it. To be honest with you, I mean, we don't know where the revenue is going to go. Right now, we know we don't have any coming in,
right,
and we won't for God knows how long. So I think it's pretty important that we do in fact see if we can't get that approved. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
it'll get us through this year, and then we go forward and see what's up.
Yeah, I mean, we're what, $200,000 short going into the new year already. It's time to tighten the wallets.
I think you're right, Mark. I'll go along with that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Somebody want to make a motion on it?
Make
That
a
would
motion-
recommend the selectmen will have to vote on it too.
Make a motion, we recommend to the selectmen to go into a spending freeze until further notice.
I'll second that. That's what it takes.
All in favor?
All right?
Aye.
aye.
Okay. Now there's the vacation buyback.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I'm happy to update.
Go ahead. Heather.
So I was able to speak to Fred Dupree, who is our labor counsel, and I also put the item back on the agenda for the select board on Monday. The good news at the very beginning here is the fact that it's only May. So the end of the year is not till the end of June, so we have a little time to figure this out. So I talked to Fred, and he referred me to an attorney general's opinion. So one of the opinions from the attorney general's website talks about the use it or lose it policy. So that's a policy we currently have for almost everybody. And it's very simple. If you don't use the vacation, with the exception of, the 2-week carryover, then you lose it. What Fred said is that that works perfectly until such time that you get to where we are right now, where you have certain departments who the department head is saying, you may not use your time. Well, if you're not allowed to use your time, then you're not allowed to lose your time in any amount. You can't do it. It becomes a wage violation problem and it becomes very messy. So what Fred had suggested was there can be a little bit of delineation amongst the departments and folks that can use their time. We can encourage people and say, you know what, when would you like to take vacation? Let's make it work. Use your time so they don't lose it. He also said that as far as the unions go, or the people who you're saying, you can't use your time, that it would be more of a focus on, maybe we increase the amount of time they can carry over to like maybe another week. And then we say, we'll buy back everything else, but we can't buy back only a portion thereof. We'd have to buy back the whole thing. So the best example I can use is you have a police officer who works a full-time shift, and let's say he's been there for a while and he's got 4 weeks of vacation left over and he can carry 2 no problem, then he's got the other 2. Well, the board could look at that type of position where their department is saying, no, you're not able to move forward. You're not able to carry it forward. But instead, they could say, okay, we're going to pay you out the 2 weeks, or alternatively, we'll allow you to carry an extra week and we'll pay you out 1 week.
Does that have to be the same for every department, though, or can it be different for the police and fire and whatever?
So generally speaking, the rule of thumb to avoid problems is similarly situated the same.
Yeah.
So the argument can be made that some positions are not similarly situated in this analysis.
Right.
So you might have like the assessor's office, some folks in the treasurer collector's office, DPW, where you can say, okay, well, you should be able to take time, as opposed to, the fire chief or the board of health, or, even the treasurer and the accountant or the police chief say, hey, I want to take time off. Well, this isn't the time to take time off, right? This is, all hands on deck for those positions. So we'll see.
Anybody got any thoughts on it?
I could take the buy one and give them an extra week. I mean, I don't know.
So, we can wait and
It'll
see.
be a problem no matter how you cut it.
We can wait and see what the board talks about more on Monday, because I'm thinking I might just invite Fred to Zoom into the meeting to explain and jump into the discussion a little bit more, and then see where we come. I was working on, they did put together an Excel spreadsheet on the Google Drive for the Mass Municipal Association on this topic when I requested it, but I can't seem to put my finger on that Google Drive. It is lost somewhere in the email. So as soon as I find it, I will send it out because it has compiled information for us that I think will be helpful. quite a few people were leaning towards the allowing people to carry time forward. So since we did talk about this last week, we have had a couple employees actually approach us and say they'd like to use some of their time. So I think that's a good sign. So
Really?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been told you can't go on vacation, you have to be either allowed to take
Right.
it or be paid for it. I mean, there's no two ways about that, I guess.
If you allow them to roll it over, can you also quantify those extra weeks have to be used in a certain time frame?
Yes, you can. So, and anything that has to do with the union would require at a minimum a discussion. I can't imagine they wouldn't be on board with something like that, of either being paid out or having a combination of that and additional time carryover. But we'll get more information from Fred, because I think he'll be able to explain and kind of even come up with a proposal. And he also works with other municipalities, so he has, what they've done.
Exactly.
So, and then I figure you guys are just meeting like every single week at this point, so it will circle back around to you very quickly.
Yeah.
Heather, if I could add one thing, this is one thing to consider with the police, fire, and EMS is sometimes it costs more money to allow the vacation carryover, because now you have to backfill those shifts. And a lot of times with overtime. So if a police officer takes an extra week of vacation, that's an extra week of vacation of overtime that has to be factored into the budget as well. Just something to think about.
That's true, Rob.
Yeah, and I don't think that applies in every situation, but at the fire station, if my paramedic is off for the day, I have to have another paramedic work. So sometimes I'm actually paying double the amount of pay to have one person take a vacation day. It could be a little bit cheaper to pay that person out the time, so I don't have to back that shift. I think the police may be in the same boat.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, the paying is cheaper.
Yeah, just something to consider. And again, I don't think that applies to every department, but it does apply to a few.
So we'll add that on to the agenda for next meeting too, and just kind of keep carrying it forward. See what the selectmen come up with too. Now we wanted to take a look at our FY21 expenses. Heather, is the police chief going to be in tonight or no?
Yes, I think he'll be zooming in with us around 7:30.
Okay.
So we have time to cover whatever FinCom would like to cover.
Okay. So the FY21 expenses, we've got a few things listed on the agenda. How to approach the wages. And we had talked a little bit about leaving the 2% COLA off. And depending how things come out, we can adjust that after the fact, but do it without it first. What's your feeling on that?
Well, not a popular opinion,
No.
but I think we should probably hold it up for now. Yes, because we have
hold it and see where we are.
Right, we have no idea where this hole is going to, how big it's going to be.
Yeah.
In the finances. Anybody else?
And now the DPW and the police, their contracts. So we don't do anything with their salaries, right? Am I right on that, Heather?
We lost Heather.
I'm here. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I try to go off video when I'm pushing too many buttons, because otherwise you just see me touching the screen.
Oh.
Yeah, so any contractual obligations we're obligated to cover. So if there's a union contract and they've negotiated something, we need to cover that. The question is, for instance, like the DPW, they just completed their negotiations on their contract. Police, we haven't even started yet because the pandemic started before we did. As far as like the DPW contract goes, they finished the negotiations and they have a signed contract, and that's now what they're going to be going by for next year. So the question becomes, we'd have to check with Jason. I'm not sure if he had already put into his request for FY21 the increases in those amounts, or if he just level funded the payroll and we were just looking to cover the additional costs from the select board, or if there's a hybrid between the two. Sometimes what departments will do is if they, they have a current contract that's a 2% increase, they'll already put in the 2% increase. And then if there's over and above amount, they'll go back and add that from a different account later once the contract's settled. So I do not have the answer to that. That would be a Jason question. When we get to the chief's budget, I'm sure he can answer it on his piece as to what he's done so far.
Yeah.
And you guys can jump into that a little bit more. But other than that, there are a couple personnel contracts out there that, I mean, we can talk to Fred, but my guess is that, you usually want to try to honor any contracts that have amounts
Yeah.
already penciled in.
Could you find out if Jason has included that in his FY21 budget?
Yes, I will try to reach out to him now, see if I can get an answer back.
Okay. So, do I have a motion for a vote on us doing the salaries except for the contract ones without the 2% COLA at this time?
We've done that before too, Claire.
Yep,
We
we did.
weren't very well liked for it, but we did it.
Well, it depends how it ends up at the end, if some miracle comes and we have the money.
Yeah.
Fine.
Of course, the problem is, when the contracts, the contract people get their raise and
Yeah.
Right.
other people don't. It's not really fair. Whether we can.
That's the way it is.
Question.
Sometimes life isn't fair.
Yeah.
I've been in that situation over the years.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody has.
I think we have.
I think what Claire's recommendation or thoughts were on this a little bit earlier is a good approach, which is, if we hold off on any additional COLAs for right now, we can always circle back around the next couple of weeks once we figure things out. Because if we're potentially able to cut other things from the budget, perhaps we can find a way to work in so that we make sure that we can include a COLA of some sorts.
Yeah.
So that everyone is treated or feels like, they're valued and treated fairly with everybody else and equitably.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Hold on.
So at this time, we'll just go without the COLA in there and wait and see what happens. See what numbers we come up with the rest. We're kind of looking at anything that we can reduce and then put back what we can.
Right. It also kind of motivates the department heads to see if they can save some money too, because anything that can be saved, we can get passed on to the employees. That's the last place I want to cut is the employees, pays. I mean, that's their livelihood, but we have to have something's going to be cut somewhere. And, it's most likely going to be at the department level to make so we can still pay that COLA.
Yeah.
Good point. I like that.
Yeah. So that's what we'll go with on that. The other thing that was suggested is professional development, paying the dues out, but not extra courses and stuff. Can you explain that better, Heather?
Sure. So one of the conversations back and forth on a bunch of the listservs is a lot of communities are, in order to work on trying to be as conservative as they can for next year's expenses, they are giving guidance that departments still budget for their annual dues that they have for the professional memberships, but they're not actually funding any, or if they are, it's very minimal of their professional development. So cost to travel to go to a conference or cost of conferences. I know a lot of, especially the Massachusetts organizations, are working pretty hard right now to see what they can do to make as many programs as possible, either free or very low of cost for next year. Understanding that this is a direction that many municipalities are currently going.
So that's one thing that we can look at the different budgets that we see.
Yeah.
And then we need to be considerate and try to help any departments that need help with level funding. Kind of guide them with where they may, if they came looking for some help, to help them out that way. We could work together with them on it.
Mm-hmm.
If they
Always,
want to, you know.
we're always open. And
Yeah,
you guys and the financial team can definitely work with them. You have been in the past, I think.
yeah, work with them on it.
Yeah.
Okay. I see that John had just joined us, police chief.
Hey, Chief.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Wait 1 second. I'll show up here. There we go.
There we go.
Good evening.
The chief is incognito.
I'm in Elvis's kitchen.
Get the green screen.
So you know what we're looking for.
Well, I have a sort of an understanding, and I'll tell you what I think you're looking
Okay.
for, and then you can clear up maybe any misunderstandings I have. You're going to give us zero increase on our budget, so we're going to get the same budget as last year. Am I right so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, we haven't gone into your contract yet. That'll be going into, that'll be in the 21.
So my contract has a raise in it. It has steps. So, and so does the, well, actually, I don't know what the deputy chief's is, and I know, and and Amy is under the municipal agreement. So, but mine does have a step in it. Then we're also negotiating a contract with the union, and clearly that money wouldn't have even been in the budget that I was proposing, because we can't propose a raise and then give them less, and so we don't do that.
Yeah.
So at some point, they're going to settle on a raise, and my understanding you correctly, then you will supplement my budget with the necessary money for that raise, or whatever it is they ask for. For all I know, they're going to ask for something and get it, like maybe an educational stipend increase, whatever that is. We'll get that after the contract is negotiated and concluded.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
We have to honor the contract.
Right. Well, I'm just saying it. So this year we have a budget, and of course I asked for more money next year, although not a whole lot more. And I understand what you're doing. What I'm concerned is this year we're squeaking by. I'm not going to be able to find the raise or any increases. Zero funding isn't going to allow me to find that next year. So as long as the plan is to increase our budgets with the money necessary to satisfy the contract, then we can scrimp and save and do everything we need to do to get through with zero funding, zero increase. Am I on the same page?
I think so.
So
What we're looking for is if there's something that you could lower.
From this past year's budget?
No, well,
So
we're
what
going
I'm
to,
saying,
we've talked earlier about freeze on spending.
right. Well, what, a freeze on spending now?
Yes.
Well, so we have several items that we have purchased that we're waiting for the bills on, and after that I can freeze spending.
Yeah, that's anything that's already been ordered.
Right. So we've ordered some things, and then if if you simply tell me to freeze spending on anything additional, purchases, the only thing that I have trouble with, and Chief Rogowski's really been real helpful with this, is we may have some COVID-19 supplies we have to buy, and we don't get the reimbursement right away. But I make those decisions based on a group meeting with the fire chief and the town administrator. So I can say that, with the exception, I have to talk to Amy about office supplies. But yes, we can cut spending on, like we can stop spending on any items we might buy after we pay for the things that were just ordered, that we're just waiting for the bill. And try to turn some money back over to you back before the end of the year. Yes, we can do all of that. I'm up against the wall with not knowing if an officer is going to become ill, and then that would be, there's an overtime issue there. So, and I think everybody would understand that, right?
Yeah.
So yes, and yes. Zero funding for next year's budget is good. If you give me the exact same budget that I had last year, exact same budget, I will, at least I'm familiar with it and I'm used to working with it. And then if I cut spending after the bills that are already outstanding are paid, we'll try and turn some money back over to you, and you'll be kept up to date by Heather in terms of emergency COVID-19 needs.
Yeah, that's being all recorded separately, right, Heather?
So Chief, all the COVID-19 stuff, anything that needs to be expended for COVID-19, I don't consider as part of the part of the expense freeze, because it's something we have to do to operate.
Right.
We are tracking it different. Nina has worked very hard to create a new account line just for expenses and for payroll that I believe all the departments at this point have and they're using. And then we're working within that account. Rather, Jean's working within that account to keep track of everything so that we can figure out which grant, if any of the grants,
right,
everything applies to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we're on the same page. Have we talked about capital, or is that later in the meeting?
We haven't talked about that yet.
Okay.
Does anyone want to questions or anything for the chief about the two budgets, the 2020 and 2021?
This sheet that Heather has given us, called police, and it's salaries and wages and other expenses.
So let me just let the chief know what you're looking at there.
Yeah, exactly. Does he have a copy?
Cleargov.com. I just pulled our ClearGov where we entered all of our budget stuff this year. I just pulled the report for everyone here tonight so that they can see what FY19's actuals were, what FY20's budget was, and what everyone requested for FY21.
So the same thing we look at pretty much every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So same thing, and then they're seeing. I think you and I chatted. It's about $14,000 difference between
last year,
FY20 and this year.
Right.
Not including contractual increases for you. Right.
So we're not going to get the 14, but because it would be easier for me to simply go back to the exact frame budget that I had,
What is that number from the total budget? It's a little confusing to me here.
Yeah, well, believe me, I have it written on a special chart on the wall of my office because it's confusing for me too.
I was actually
I could point it out to you.
No, I was actually asking Claire or Heather on this sheet. It says $846,549.
I'm going to pull it up for us so we can look at it at the same time.
Then we can look at it.
We all have the same document. Just give me one moment. If I push the right button, we'll be successful. If I don't, we won't. Okay, let's see here.
Chief, you'll see when she gets this up here that the requested on fiscal year 21 is only 817. So that's my confusion.
Okay, well, all right. So here we go.
There it is at the bottom.
All right. So it was $799 budgeted in FY20, and then in FY21, I have it under ClearGov as $817, but that doesn't include any special articles. Does that look? Can you see this, Chief? Does that look correct?
Yep, that looks right.
So the 846 includes some special articles, like armory and things like that.
Let's see.
I think it includes a car.
Right. Well, we're not doing a car this year?
No, we haven't gotten there yet. Of course, I'm going to ask for a car. Yes.
Well, we haven't got there yet, Brian.
It looks like, so a couple differences. If you look down to the second half and other expenses,
Yes.
FY19 actual police supplies were about 20,000, which is about 11,000 more than both FY20 and FY21 requested.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to see if there's any other difference here.
What's the contract in the lower other expenses? Contract expense went from 2,500 to 11,000.
Chief, do you have any thoughts on that? What that could be?
Contractual allowances. You know what? The contractual allowances is there. So yes, I know what. So what you see is the police supplies used to contain the money that they're guaranteed in the contract for uniform replacement and purchase.
Uniforms.
Okay. Or maintenance and replacement. So we took that and we moved it to contractual allowances so that it's a contract number. So we put it in that category and it gives us a better idea of what we actually have left for supplies. We were going to the same pot for every bit of supplies that we were buying and their uniforms. So we just took it out and moved it over there to contractual allowances.
I see.
So that's really their uniforms.
Yeah, they each get like what, $1,200 a year, something like that. And we add it up, that's the number you get.
Okay. That's good. Anybody else?
So Chief, you'll come in with the $799 then, right?
I'll come in with $799.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll do what we have to do.
Good. That's
and
good.
See what you guys get them for raises, and
Right.
Appreciate your cooperation, Chief.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks a lot. You've got a lot going on your plate right now, too.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree with you that the other employees in town that you were talking about, you might not be able to give them the 2%. And it's worth our effort to try and make that happen for them. So
yes,
we'll do what we can.
So if we can make it come through, that's what we want to do.
Yep.
Okay. Now, Heather, have you got any more news on any articles on the warrant?
No, I haven't.
Don't have anything that we know of.
I haven't heard of anything. The only one that came to my attention at all was a resident interested in a bylaw relative to something small. I will reach out to him and see if he's interested in continuing that. But as far as I know, I don't know anything else. I know the chairman of the select board was looking to discuss at the select board meeting on Monday. Just if they need to push back any dates for people to be able to do a citizen's petition, or what that would even look like, because right now, so the town clerk, Ellen, she's currently looking into the state options on this. They have modified their own state process for like nomination papers and so forth. They do electronic signatures right now. So we'll wait and see what he has to say. But as far as that goes, I don't really have any other articles that I think are going to be coming up.
No.
The only other thing we had discussed, and I think we discussed this earlier, Claire, is Jean, Sharon, and I have been looking at the current accounting books and seeing if we can consolidate some of the articles that have been out there for a number of years. So like monies, whenever we can, for, if it's just a general road thing, to repave or whatever it may be, we can consolidate some of those projects. And same thing with the assessor's office. They have quite a few things for their reeval.
Yeah.
So we just make life a little happier when we can with the accounting stuff. But other than that, nothing that I know of that's major that.
Okay, well, we can take a look at the capital plan. The only thing that we've really, and that I've heard from the selectmen also, is the ambulance, that we really need one. Is that true, Rob?
You're muted.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's true. Yes.
So
So what?
that's the main thing. We haven't even discussed anything else because of that. We need
Right.
that,
Well,
and we've got to see where the money's coming at the end of the year too.
Right. We need to. It's our 2005 ambulance. It's in pretty tough shape. We've put in about $30,000 into it in the last year and a few months just to keep it on the road. And unfortunately, it's a 2005, and the suspension system is no longer manufactured. So to get parts for it now, we can't. We're just fortunate that our town mechanic talented and he kept it on the road. I don't believe that it will make another year. And the problem that we run into is it takes between 6 to 8 months, as little as 4, and the maximum is 8 to get an ambulance from when you buy it. Currently, because of the current COVID pandemic, the truck companies, Ford specifically, who make a majority of the ambulances, are not making that cab because they retooled their factories to make ventilators. And speaking of the ambulance manufacturers, it's going to be 8+ months right now to get an ambulance. So that kind of puts a monkey wrench into the replacement.
Mm.
So we have 2, and it's not uncommon for us to have both ambulances out at the same time. Plus, with one ambulance, getting its routine maintenance in the shop, that means without a backup, we don't have any. So if somebody in an ambulance is going to call for a mutual aid ambulance.
Well, I know that that was the top thing on the list.
Yep. Yes.
If that's, the only thing we can do. Now, you've got some other things on here for the capital plan for this year.
Yes.
Which,
the ambulance
is there anything that's as needed as the ambulance? Let's put it that way.
The ambulance is
Thank you.
number one. We also really need another car. The car that we had the old building inspector's car, and that was the fire inspector would use it, and then when we had the ambulance calls, or we just had a call where we needed extra people, we would get into that. We called it car 2. That permanently broke. The frame has a rat hole in it. Was unrepairable back in October or November. We haven't had it, and we were using our 1986 pickup truck, and then that broke and was not fixable. So Rutland, the town of Rutland, donated their old brush truck to get us by. But especially now with the COVID, we're trying to send 3 people on the ambulance calls because we have to put on our special gowns and suits, and it takes a couple of hands. And we're trying to limit the police officers' role on the ambulance calls because we want to keep exposure down to a minimum. So if we do have anybody that gets sick, we don't want to have officers and EMTs and stuff. So that car is pretty important to us as well. Clearly, if we can only get one, the ambulance is a priority, but that car is pretty valuable to us at this time.
Now, you've got on here, build new fire station. That's out.
Well,
right now we can't put money away
there's a study committee
unless we come out okay.
Isn't there a study committee on that?
I believe that's the money that Andrew had put for that was for the study committee.
Because I thought he was going to put so much away every year to begin it, but that's something we could do without, don't you think?
Yeah.
What would you? All right, I'll ask you a question, Ron. What would you say you could go without on this capital list? Because we are looking, we have to get rid of some stuff.
Yep. So right now, the stretcher we could do without. The thought process is right now, most of our ambulances have different stretchers. So when we get a new ambulance, it will come with a new stretcher, but the stretchers are not interchangeable. So if one ambulance had broken down, we can't take the stretcher out and put it in the other one. We have to take the patient off. Kind of a pain.
Well, that's for the next year.
So we could get rid of the stretcher replacement. That we could cut that out. I'm looking at
22.
what we have.
That stretcher replacement is for 2022, though.
Okay, I'm trying to look at what was on this year. I've had so many things.
Yeah.
I've looked at.
Well,
I
there
gotta
was the fire station and the car.
I believe
Replace
the.
brush trucks.
Yeah, we could go without that for this year because Rutland did donate us their one, so we have that.
Station 2 gear locker improvements.
Yeah, I think that was $5,000
Yeah.
for, we could, if we had
You
to.
could get by without that if we had to.
Yes.
Let's see. What else is fire? That's it on the fire, I think. Does anybody see anything else in there for fire? For 2020?
I think that's it.
There's some for the next year, but I'm just trying to mark off things that are possible that aren't absolutely needed.
Right. To
And
me,
then the
the ambulance,
selectmen will look at it too.
the ambulance is, that's priority number one, and the other car, the
Yeah.
police car one. The brush truck, like I said, Rutland was kind enough to give us an older one. We can make that last for another year. That's okay. The gear lockers, I mean, we can kind of build our own if we have to.
Yeah.
Claire,
Yeah.
how about the revenue side in the ambulance? What's that looking like? Can we get some money to partly pay for the ambulance from that? Or not?
Heather, what do you know on that?
I know that the right person to answer this question might be Jean, because she's managing these revenues as they come in on the books.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually use that for the ambulance budget, though.
Right. That's
So are you planning on doing something different?
no. I'm just wondering whether the revenues are up or down or how that's working out.
Pretty steady. I've got $489,600 in the ambulance fund right now.
Okay. And their budget is for next year?
We usually use at least 425.
All right. So there's 50.
425, 435. I think we use 425 this year.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So
it looks like there might be some money there to minimize that 250. No?
Well, I'm gonna go on the no side, and the reason I'm gonna go on the no side, one of the conversations Rob and I have had, and Claire and I have had, and I know I've had with Matt, is back last year, towards the beginning of the year, I think Rob had a conversation with both finance and the select board about adding additional funds from the ambulance receipts reserve to the ambulance budget itself. And it was supposed to be something that was moved forward with at the fall town meeting. And we did not have a fall town meeting, so we did not appropriate that amount. And Rob, if I remember correct, it was around $20,000.
22.
22. Okay. 22. And the part of the reason that that's important is because if you remember that Rob actually based his ambulance expenses on this year, knowing that he was going to get those funds. So at the beginning of the year, when he got the support from the select board and the FinCom that everyone's okay with moving forward with that, he already put that into his budget. So if you look at that 480, and as Gene said, we generally spend about 420, you figure 20K more is going to end up going to this year, and then 20K on top of that would go to next year. So that's close to 460, which is less than 20K bump extra.
Okay. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Rob is doing a wonderful job in his department and the ambulance and everything else. And I definitely think we need an ambulance. I was just kind of trying to understand the revenue side. That's all.
And one thing I talked about, Brian, and I've discussed with Andrew pretty extensively, and then I've been talking with Heather, is that with our ambulance, with our receipts that we get, is coming up with a number that we take a specific number every year, if it's 425, 450, 435, whatever it is, and we fund the budget with, and then any extra going on top of that, we put aside for capital purchases.
Okay. So there is a separate account for capital.
Well, right now, all of it is going into one account, and then at the meeting, we transfer it into the operating budget.
Oh.
But what I'm saying is, if the ambulance, just for easy math, if we said every year we were going to take $450 from the ambulance reserve account to fund the budget, but the ambulance brought in $475, that we would take that extra $25,000 and put it into a capital outlay account. So when we do have to make a stretcher purchase or an ambulance purchase, you have some money built up over the year.
Okay.
And some years it may be more money, some years it may be less money. I've had that conversation extensively with Andrew, and I've started to have it with him to look at that as a possibility.
Okay, sounds great.
So I can't guarantee it's going to bring in that much money. I just easy numbers. So don't hold me to these numbers.
It's all estimates.
So that's good, Rob.
Yep, that's great.
Now, Chief, the only thing I see on here for you is the new cruiser.
Yeah, well, we had put in 3 warrants, but I'm withdrawing 2 of them, leaving just the cruiser. But the cruiser is 40, and a cruiser is not 40, a cruiser is 50. Maybe those were the numbers we were dealing with a few years ago, but
Yeah.
that would be underfunding a cruiser.
So that's the only thing on the capital here. Huh?
Yes, that's right.
Now, are you getting a cruiser within your budget or no?
Well, we never, so you mean within the money that we just talked about?
Yeah.
No, we never
No.
buy a cruiser out of that. It's
Okay.
always capital.
And you can't do without that?
So yeah, let me.
I hate to ask you, but.
The answer is, I'll explain our situation. When I got here, we went through a period where we had as many as 3 cruisers sidelined just due to holes in the floors, rust, engines that didn't work, not passing inspection. We finally got out of that, but we have 2 cars that are dragging, and one isn't going to make it very much longer. The problem is that we buy this car, we order the car in July, and then we don't get it until February. And that's when the bill comes due.
Yeah.
If we had to wait and do it again next year, because they only build these cars at a particular time during the year, and you have to get in line. If we wait, we wouldn't get in our next car if we don't buy one this year for basically 2 years. And that means we'd be down those 2 cruisers because they're just not going to make it. We can baby 1, but we can't baby 2, so we're overdue. So the upside is the bill wouldn't come due for the town until probably, if everything goes the way it usually does, January, February earliest.
Okay.
But we have 2 beat up old cruisers right now. They're kind of just barely squeaking, but one for sure, it's just really not, it's just not hanging in there.
Well, that's good to know that the invoice, that would make a difference when the invoice comes in.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we could get it sooner, but we can't,
Yeah.
And Claire, that's the same situation with the ambulance. We wouldn't have to pay for the purchase until we pick it up, which would probably be 8 months from the date we signed the contract, so possibly February. And if we waited the next town meeting, you know, we wouldn't see the ambulance till almost 2 years from now. So same situation as the police.
Okay.
Get the car, get the car.
So Claire, I just want to make sure everyone understands this.
Yeah, get it.
That it's good that the money wouldn't be due for that period of time because that allows us to maintain our cash flow.
Right.
You're dicey at the beginning of 2021. But do keep in mind that we do need to still make sure we have the money available to actually appropriate. So we have to make sure we have those funds to be able to purchase those items. When we do. Totally understand. I'm on board with all of that. I just want to make sure that that point's clear.
Yep.
Aren't we purchasing these out of free cash?
The ambulance the selectmen had said would probably come from free cash.
Mm-hmm. How about the cruiser?
They at first said, the selectmen said just the ambulance. Because
So
we
it
may
looks
have
like-
to use free cash to balance the budget.
So based on the, right here, what we're looking at, based on the capital plan, when this was designed, they have that the police cruiser will come out of free cash. It's so hard to see this copy.
Yeah.
And then, I gotta go back to the top page. Let me rotate it. And then fire department. Let's see. The first thing was the ambulance. They had ambulance originally as a bond.
Yeah, that's what I see here. But I thought they were taking it out of free cash.
And then car one, they had out of free cash. And the stretch the following year, they had out of free cash. So that's what they had last year. I mean, if the finance committee is supporting and behind that as the modified capital plan, we can discuss internally the best way to finance it, what the best plan is, whether it would be a free cash or whether it'd be something that we'd look to do a bond for. We already have quite a few bonds that we've actually rolled all into one, but we're still managing those. The only thing I would say with the free cash piece is our number this year for free cash, we said was a little over 600,000, and we're allowed to spend it at this point until it gets recertified with FY20's numbers. The one thing that I think is important to keep in mind is as of right now, we've been rolling behind on reimbursements through Chapter 90 by a year or so. And last year, the state let us slide, having a significant amount of money that wasn't reimbursed yet through Chapter 90. We anticipate that they're not going to let us slide this year. So if we do have amounts of money that haven't been reimbursed, like we've done the work, but we didn't get the money back from the state yet on Chapter 90, we anticipate that they're going to hit us on our free cash, which means you start with that 600,000 and contained, and if that's what's left come, July, and let's say we have a $300,000 balance of funds that are out there for Chapter 90 that were not reimbursed, it's going to knock us and say your free cash is really only 300,000. So it's just something to keep in mind that these things get affected. The other piece to be mindful of is if for some reason, despite our best attempts here at putting some hiring freeze and expense freeze on, if we still end up expending more than what we take in on revenues, the free cash is also going to get hit at the end of the year to cover that. Like we don't have to go appropriate it at town meeting because it will automatically be taken off of what we overspend. So that's just something to keep in mind, and we're monitoring everything extremely closely, but just so everyone is aware.
Heather, can you update me on why we haven't got the Chapter 90 money and when was it applied for and so forth?
So Jean can tell you better about what's out there for Chapter 90 reimbursement,
Okay,
what year the funds were utilized and when they were received. The general process is once we complete a project, the DPW is responsible for putting together the paperwork, including all of the invoices from everything we paid for the completion of the work, to the state, and you have to go back and forth, usually a little bit sometimes for it. But generally speaking, it takes somewhere, some people say 2 weeks up to, a couple months to get reimbursed for that. But Jean?
Yeah, What's happened, Gene?
As far as I know, nothing's happened. It's almost $1 million.
That's good. Wonderful.
And he put in for it supposedly at least, oh my gosh, part of it, 300,000 of it, maybe back in December when he was told me he was putting it in September. Finally might have gone in December, and they're supposedly working on the rest of it, but I haven't seen that yet either. So, yeah, you won't have any free cash. Let me put it that way.
Somebody needs to be on top of this. What is going on there?
I don't know. I can't get him to do anything.
Heather,
So
what's going on with the selectmen? They don't care about $1 million? Good God.
I believe that everyone cares. Sometimes things can get a little frustrating because we don't have a very straight line in our government.
Yes, I know.
We have many lines.
That should be changed also, but go ahead.
So that's something. And the other thing is just, I think everyone is currently cognizant of it. And my understanding is that people are aware and working on it. I don't know. Dean, do you know what year or when those projects were completed that we're currently seeking reimbursement for now?
the one for the 300 that supposedly he sent in was 2019's and some of the summer of 20. So last summer, part of it. Most of it was 2019, and then the rest of it was the rest of last summer. So these projects have been done since last summer, all of them.
Oh.
Last fall.
I will reach out to Jason and Shannon and see if I can be of any assistance with getting things expedited on this stuff. But I have communicated that this is extremely important for the fiscal health of the town to make sure that we get this paperwork taken care of.
The DPW commission doesn't care about $1 million either, apparently. Because that's who he works for, right?
Yes, my understanding based on the design of the DPW commission through the special act that goes back to the 1980s,
right?
That yes, it appears that the superintendent or director reports directly to the DPW commission.
Okay.
Geez, that's all public information, right?
Yes.
Maybe we should make it public.
Oh, it's not public?
It's public.
Yeah, it's public.
No, I know it is, but I mean, maybe we should bring it forth and make it really public. that this things aren't being done. There's $1 million sitting there. There's no excuse for that. We're sitting here talking about not giving our employees a raise, and we got $1 million hanging out there that nobody cares about.
Unbelievable.
That's about as wrong as you get.
You're not kidding. How does everybody else feel on the committee?
I feel the same way. He should be doing his job.
Terrible.
If he needed help, I don't know, Jean, what does he have to do? Get all the invoices and everything together?
Yeah, it's a matter of submitting all the invoices and copies of all the checks. But I know Sharon has been copying that stuff for him as soon as it runs through our warrant. So when they start looking for that stuff, she has it all in a folder. So it's not really, I mean, a lot of the crappy part of it's already done. It would be just submitting it to the state with whatever paperwork that else they need as, and I have to sign off on it. Selectmen have to sign off on it that it was all completed. This was accurate. So I don't know.
Thank you, Sharon, anyway, for keeping track of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's real helpful for them,
Yeah.
That's very disheartening to think that we're sitting here telling a fire department they can't get this, and the police department they can't get that, and employees can't get their raise, and this kind of crap is going on outside of the circle here.
Bad, real bad. All right, let's move on.
Heather, could you let the selectmen know that the finance committee wants some answers why this stuff isn't turned in sooner?
I can, Claire, but won't you be attending the select board's meeting on Monday?
Yeah.
It may come. Well,
Then they can come after me.
Well, No, but I was just simply thinking that sometimes it's better if, as committees, you guys have someone who communicates directly as opposed to the telephone process.
Yeah, yeah. And plus it's on, it's televised too.
Zoom.
Yes, and we're televised too, so.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, I can do that because I have to go in anyways.
Yes, you have to call in on Zoom.
So as long as, all the finance committee is willing to back me on it.
Completely.
I should hope.
We are,
Good.
oh, yeah. Heather, on that meeting, selectmen's meeting, can anybody zoom into that bugger?
Absolutely. All the information on how to get on the call should be on My Town Government on the agenda, up at the top part of the page. And I did triple that, unlike today's helping version that apparently I did not triple check.
Okay.
Okay, so that sounds good. What time is the meeting Monday?
It's at 6:30.
Now, Heather, is there a
6:30?
danger with the quorum being at the selectmen's meeting?
I would say, well, I would try to keep it under a quorum if you can,
Okay,
because at this point it's,
so that means 3 could be there.
yeah, because the problem we run into, if we had this meeting last night and you asked to do that, I could just post in case. But at this point, we're gonna run into the 48 hours.
Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, put under a quorum.
Okay. So Ted, you will be there Monday?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna try.
I was hoping somebody would be there and I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, I
So if there's any really heavy questions.
I can be there also, Heather. I mean,
I have a plexiglass screen I put in front of my computer, so if they shoot the screen, it won't hit me.
Okay. Now we've got the meetings that Heather has set up. You've got it, did you print off your list? May 7th is the fire. With fire, EMT, EMS,
Oh,
and
you're right.
ambulance.
Yep,
yellow. Yep,
yep.
looks good. 7/14/21.
The 14th is the DPW.
That'll be interesting.
The 21st is the town clerk, council on aging, and library. We have the 28th open.
Which is good, because I didn't put the school on there.
Yeah. And June 4th is the budget hearing.
So I just penciled those dates in for the
Yeah.
you guys review. I have not double checked those dates with all of the different boards and committees, although I imagine no one's going away on vacation, so they should all theoretically be available.
Yeah.
For the most part for those days. But.
The seventh works for me. I assume we're doing it via Zoom like this.
Zoom.
Yep. So you're up next, Rob.
Okay.
And does anyone else have any other questions?
Nope.
Nope, I'm good.
Claire.
Yeah.
On old business or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Why do my phone, my clock stops ringing?
Yeah, yeah.
I always looked at the stabilization account as a rainy day fund. And I'm
Yeah,
here thinking the other day, this ain't a rainy day. We ain't ever going to see a rainy day. Okay. And I don't know exactly what everybody's feeling is. It looks like we may have 120K in there that would allow us to still keep our 5%. But I don't know what people's feelings are about using the money. But I'll tell you what, there are certain things that we're going to need this year that can't ever, I don't know, how you would even have planned for it. I don't know what, to me, that's one of the things we should think about doing. And everybody think about what they want to do about that account. I've been thinking about that. I'm not sure exactly what I want to do, but I think it's important to think about that.
I know the selectman had mentioned it.
Well,
I think it was Matt. Was it Heather?
I don't recall.
I know one of them had mentioned and said, if we have to, we can dip into the stabilization. Do you know, Heather, how much we have to have in that account?
5% of the
There's no.
To have about,
the guideline is 5%.
should have 580,000, at least 5%.
Okay, so that there's 800,000 in it.
Sharon, do you recall the balance off the top of your head?
So
But
in
one of your sheets,
stabilization-
Heather, you had 700K in there.
Yes.
Yes.
720-ish, Sharon?
And then we have 701,000 in our stabilization account, and we
Okay.
have 100,000 of our general fund money over in Bartholomew that if we needed to, we can obviously use that too.
Well, it's there,
Well,
so
So you need around 500 there. Yeah, so that's something to think about.
Yeah, they had mentioned something about it. It all depends what we can do between now and June 30th.
yeah, right. Right.
We just have to keep in mind too that we have no idea how long this whole thing's gonna last.
You know, it may
Gonna take to get out.
That's for sure.
So,
continue to
No question
2021.
about that.
right. Just need to be careful, that's all.
Yeah,
I don't have any objections, as long as we maintain that 5%. I do whatever you want with the other stuff, but
Yeah,
we worked really hard to get that 5% number not many years ago.
yeah, I know it.
that's for sure.
We were pretty
That's for
close
sure.
there for a while now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if no one has anything else, we can adjourn.
Okay.
Brian,
Yeah.
make that motion.
Good
And
job.
next Thursday,
I'll make a motion.
I
we
second
adjourn.
it.
Okay, thank you,
all
everybody.
in favor?
Third,
Aye.
Aye.
hi,
Okay,
keep safe.
Yeah. we
yeah.
do.
Well, everybody, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, guys.
Bye.
Night.
Good night.